joined by Northwestern State head football coach Brad Laird. Coach, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I tell you, to have the opportunity to do this, like we were talking before, I mean, the opportunity that these young men have moving forward to the spring season. You know, it's kind of hard to say spring season and not spring practice. I'm trying to differentiate between the two. You know, we had our fall ball, now we have our spring season. So, you know, we're excited. You know, we're excited for the opportunity for these young men to be able to go represent Northwestern State University on the field, something that, you know, so many of them have been doing since they were 6 and 7 years old. You know, how many times do you look going through the fall as a football coach or a football player and not having the opportunity to play a football game? It doesn't happen. But, you know, we made a lot of progress in the fall, you know, being able to have the opportunity to go through fall ball that has prepared us for the spring season.
You mentioned having an extended amount of period to practice, to prepare. Your team has a lot of new faces, especially on the offensive side. How have you seen that extra preparation help out, and how will that help for this upcoming spring season?
I think it's been huge. I really do. If you go back and you always try to look at positives. Whenever you look when there's things that are a negative or things that are don't go the way you want them to, there's always a positive in there somewhere. And I think, you know, for us, if you look from an offensive standpoint, as we went through the 7 days of spring practice prior to the fall that we did not have, we came out of it not knowing who the quarterback was going to be. And, you know, as we went through 15 days of fall, you know, it started to define itself a little bit more. Now we're still going to go through spring camp to decide who that's going to be. But I think it gave a lot of young guys and not necessarily just young guys, inexperienced guys, the opportunity to get reps. And you know, so we use that in the fall. You start with the quarterback position. You know, we've got 3 guys that are continuing to battle for that spot. But also you look at other spots. I mean, you look at receiver where we lost a receiver that had over 100 catches. But we've got guys that we brought in that were gained a lot of experience in the fall that they would have had to gain that experience in games. You know, now they were able to gain it in practice. So, you know, I think you can go through each position on the offensive side and say, hey, that fall ball was much needed to prepare them to where we are in the spring.
Looking on the opposite end, the defensive side, you returned 7 starters from 2019 fall season. How have they, you know, continued to progress and step up and maybe be that example for some of these people who aren't as experienced?
Well, I think you probably saw that in the fall, but you could sense in the fall where the defense was a little ahead as far as experience in the system and experience as far as Southland Conference football games. So, you know, I expect to see the same as we continue to move forward spring camp, getting ready for the spring season. And, you know, defensively, I think you look at linebacker, if you look at a spot in our scheme where you talk about guys that have experience, that have leadership capabilities with Jaquay Pogue and Blake Stevenson, both coming back from the inside linebacker spot, but also a Jomar Valson, who gained a lot of experience last year, and the Landon King on the opposite side of him. So, you know, I think everything starts right there in the middle with those linebackers. And I think as you see things develop from a defensive side of the ball, you see more of some of those new guys that are starting to fit into the scheme and the system of what Coach Lucas wants defensively.
Who are a couple of those new guys, whether it's on offense or on defense or special teams, who has really stepped up and taken your eye and you've noticed that they're ready to make a contribution?
Well, I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. That's what we were talking about. And I think there's no doubt, you know, you look at one defensively, we lost a lot of safeties from last year. You know, when you talk about 7 starters coming back with the 4 that aren't, we're all, it seemed like it's safety. So P.J. Harrington that came in last spring was able to get 7 practices with us in the fall, was able to get all 15, and has proven himself to be, you know, not only a starter at safety, but also a leader. And, you know, it didn't take him long to be able to come and have his impact on this football team from a defensive side. You know, from an offensive side, I'm going to look at a couple of different areas. One is receiver. You know, that's going to be one area that, when you look at the guys that we've lost over the last couple of years, you have a Gavin Landry, you have a Kendrick Price who have played in some big conference games, both coming off injuries though, both, one being injured in fall ball, Gavin being injured last year. But those guys now are 100% healthy. But we've brought in some new guys to be able to compete at spots. So I think like a Marquise Bridges that we brought in as a receiver that has, shown his maturity, has shown his level of being able to compete and play on a Saturday night. And then also at tight end, I think, we had David Fitzwater that was with us last year, but we were able to get a Jacob Logan, a young man that has joined us that really made his mark over the 15 days of fall ball that I look forward to seeing continue to progress on the offensive side of the ball.
What excites you the most about this 2020-2021 Northwestern State Demons team?
I tell you, just how our young men have had to change and adapt. And, we're talking 6 games, but we're just looking forward to that first game because, whether you talk about the pandemic, whether you talk about the hurricanes that have come through, that have not directly affected, as far as maybe Natchitoches and Northwestern State, which it did because we were out, but it affected a lot of our guys' families that are back down south. And for them to be able to overcome all of those things, to have the opportunity to do something they love. I mean, that's why we're sitting here. That's why you do what you do. That's why I do what I do. That's why these kids do what they do. It's what they love. And when you take away the competition on Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, that's tough on those guys. So I think that's the most exciting thing is just allow them to go out there and have the opportunity to have fun at what they have been up doing their whole life.